Join us on a Wednesday morning, on a beautiful Southern California Wednesday morning, with a man who is considered a man who came from the source of life, and my brother from another father.
You're my brother from another mother.
Okay, I thought you were my brother from another father.
No, that doesn't have the same ring to it.
Really?
Brother, other mother. See,
Okay. I was wondering who was the one who violated the marital issue. Was it your mother that went out and dated a white guy, or what happened? How did you show up in our brotherhood?
I have no idea, and when you put it in those terms, I don't think I want to know.
All right, good. Well, Dr. Johnson, welcome to
you.
Conversations with Dr. Johnson. That was just a refresher to know how exciting we normally are, and to know that we're going to be tasting some good things today. So today, Dr. Johnson, this is actually one of your favorite topics,
Yes.
detoxification.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so take us into it.
Okay, all right. So first of all, understand there are, on the one hand, we have general detox. On the other hand, we have heavy metal detox.
What is detox, Dr.
Well,
Johnson? We're talking to Americans. They're not really that smart.
Okay.
What is detox?
Okay, so here's probably the simplest example that most people can relate to.
Yeah.
Let's say you went out last night and you had too much to drink and you've got a hangover this morning.
Yes.
Why do we get hangovers? We get hangovers because, number one, alcohol, as much fun as it might be, is to some extent a toxin that your liver has to process.
I
and
love how you're
detoxify.
holding yourself back and saying to some extent. Alcohol is a toxin. Why are you like...
Well, there are weak toxins and there are very strong
I
toxins.
thought you were trying to cover Karen because she likes to take a low.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, not you.
No.
Not you.
In the grand scheme of things, alcohol is a much weaker toxin,
Toxin.
Than a lot of other
All right,
drugs,
yeah. So
okay?
even though it will poison to a large amount, but at a small amount, it's okay to make us feel good.
Yeah. So, to detoxify alcohol, your liver has to go through two phases. The first phase is where the alcohol is converted into something called acetaldehyde, which is way more toxic than alcohol is. But nevertheless, it's a required intermediate step before we can do the final detoxification, where the acetaldehyde is turned into carbon dioxide and water. Okay?
And then excrete it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So,
In the labs, in my chemistry labs, we were creating acetaldehydes, very dangerous
Yeah.
intermediate compound.
yeah, so
Yes.
so acetaldehyde is why you have the hangover the
Yeah,
next
but so
morning.
why do we need to detoxify? Is it because we are collecting toxins all the time?
All the time, every single day in our modern environment. In most,
So even when I'm with white people or black people, am I also collecting toxins from them?
we don't usually take that racist, toxic approach.
Oh, really? Because I thought toxicity was also captured in the race architecture. Right. I know, Dr. Johnson.
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, I was worried
Okay.
about where toxic, because people say there's a toxic culture here. I thought you need to detox a toxic culture.
Yeah, we're not talking about psychological toxicity, we're talking about physical toxicity.
Physical toxicity.
So
Thanks for that clarification.
Why do we want to be detoxified? Because number one, we are much healthier.
I thought he was going to say because we're racist. But go ahead, Dr. Johnson. Because we're much healthier. Go ahead, Dr. Johnson. Why do we need to detoxify?
You're hopeless, aren't you?
I know.
Okay, so we want to detoxify because toxins do bad things to our body. They are involved in our gradual progression into a lot of diseases, whether it's cancer, whether it's heart disease, whether it's diabetes.
And
whatever
it's
the
looked
case.
like they just hide inside of us, right? And then they
Absolutely.
accumulate and
Yes.
then become really dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, you know, if you eat a standard American diet, the food is
Useless.
soaking in toxins, okay?
Useless.
That's why we want to eat organic whenever possible, because we're going to be able to minimize our toxic exposure.
But then people would tell you that organic is for rich people, but you know.
Well, look, I didn't say you have to eat organic. I recommended you do so when possible. If I'm going to buy peaches and the regular ones are $5 and the organic ones are $12.
Yes.
I'm probably going to get the regular ones and wash them thoroughly,
Yes.
which isn't enough, but it's better than nothing.
Or you could buy a little of the expensive ones and a little of the cheap ones and mix it.
Yeah,
And then your body might not know the difference.
if the standard ones are $5 and the organic are 6 or 7, I'm absolutely going to buy the organic.
Exactly.
So you do what you can.
Yeah.
You do what
So,
you
so
can.
organic is really important because of the introduction of toxins into your body.
Exactly.
And that's one of the big reasons why you want to go for really healthy and well
Yes.
made food.
Yes,
All right.
and as far as possible, unprocessed foods.
Okay.
Lots of chemicals are added to most processed foods.
But toxins come to us from all angles.
Sure,
The air
absolutely,
we breathe,
absolutely.
the water we drink, the food, even the creams and the soaps we use on our body, all introduce toxins into our body.
Well, sure. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it's several 100,000 chemicals and toxins have been invented during our Industrial Revolution.
In the last 200 years.
Yeah, things that never before existed on
Existed.
this planet.
Wow.
And so, yes, they're rampant. They're everywhere.
And so now all these toxins, why do they like to live inside us? Why is it not immediately removed?
Well, most of them are fat soluble, which means they get stored in our fat cells.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that a lot of people have so much difficulty losing weight is because in order to lose weight, you've got to allow those toxins to come out of your cells, out of your fat cells. And the body's going, no, 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 we don't want that.
Because
and
they're dangerous.
So you just stay fat.
Yeah, because that intermediate stage products are very dangerous.
Yes,
They'll
yes.
make us sick.
Yes.
All right, so now tell us, for somebody like me who has fat I can't lose, where do I begin?
Well, now that's a whole other question. We've got to look at all of your hormones. We've got to make sure that you've got a youthful, healthful testosterone level, a
And I
youthful,
know I'm
healthful,
working on all of those things.
a youthful, healthful thyroid level,
Yes.
and we've got to make sure that your estrogen level is not too high.
I know, because I could become female. Is that what's driving?
Has that already started?
Yeah, is that what's driving some people to start thinking they're female?
Good question. Who knows? We'll have to take that one on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, we'll take that after in the
Yeah.
question session time. I love
Yeah.
it how you dodge these questions, Dr. Johnson. But so now talk to me. So somebody who comes to you
Yes.
and you want to say you've looked at all those other issues, but you want to take them through a preventative detox process. How does that work?
Bronco Protect.
Bronco Protect.
Yes.
I remember the first time you told me this. Is that why my mother said I should eat broccoli?
Probably.
Yes, and I hated it,
And
and now I eat it.
And she probably told you that because she knew you didn't like it, and she's the mom, you're going to do what I say, right? Toe the line, young man.
Liberals don't
Yeah.
teach that.
Yeah, so for general detox, 2 Bronco Protect twice a day for a month, and in the vast majority of cases, that's going to take care of any liver issues that might be apparent on testing. For
Because one of the
toxicity.
big issues is that the liver is really the engine for detoxification.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yeah.
that's its biggest job, isn't it? Except with some other things that it does.
That's one of its
cholesterol.
that's one of its biggest jobs, except for some other things.
that it does, like with cholesterol
Yeah.
and all the other things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So you say 2 in the
pills.
morning, 2 in the evening
Yes, for a month.
1 month.
and then 2 pills once a day, long term.
How would I know that it's working?
Well, a lot of
I
people.
would see it from my poo. I would see some metal stuff coming out in my poo. No.
Not unless you've been swallowing knives.
So how would I
And
know
that
it's
might be
working?
worse coming out than it was going in.
I know, right? How
Okay.
would I know it's working?
Well, a lot of people that are fairly toxic, they start feeling significantly better within a few days.
Really?
Now, most detox programs require you to go through a phase where you feel worse before you feel better.
Yes.
Not this one. You just feel better right away. Or if you're not that toxic and the
Okay.
toxicity is not causing symptoms, then you may not feel any difference, but it can show up on your blood work.
So, but typically in the blood work, if we were just looking at overall liver, the general wellness detoxification, what would show us that the liver was not optimizing its detoxification process?
Well, there are liver function tests. There's total bilirubin, there's alkaline phosphatase, there's AST, there's ALT, there's
Okay.
gamma glutamyl
And
transpeptidase.
those levels would
So,
give us a sense. Yes.
If those levels are elevated,
Yes.
or even if they're high normal, that strongly implies that your liver is having to work harder at detoxification than it's truly comfortable with.
Oh, wonderful.
And so if people have elevated liver enzymes, typically 1 month of this will normalize
So
those.
people who drink a lot,
Yes,
this is something they should take often, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So this should be like their pill before they go drinking or after they drink.
Well,
I mean, they should be before because after they can remember.
Yeah, don't misunderstand. I'm not encouraging anybody to go out and overindulge in alcohol. But if you did, and you took 4 of these before you went to bed that night, you will not be hungover the next morning.
So we should rename this our hangover pill, right? Broco Protect for recovery. So let's talk about the other area of
Heavy metals.
heavy metals.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so talk to us about heavy metals.
Okay, so heavy metals are a situation where since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution over 200 years ago, we have been putting more and more and more heavy metals into our environment. Things like lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, aluminum, tin, nickel, uranium, plutonium, etc.
Yeah.
Okay? We're exposed to these every day of our lives. A lot of people are exposed to them before they're even born.
Yes.
Because their mother has heavy metal toxicity and the baby's being exposed to
And
them.
heavy metal, why they call heavy metals, it's not because they're heavy.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but there's also a reason why they're called heavy metals, right? There's this issue of radiation, right?
No.
Oh, no,
No.
at all? Like mercury, like,
Well, certainly uranium and plutonium are radioactive, but,
Yes.
but that's not what we're
What-
really talking
okay,
about.
so what we're talking about is really the fact that they're heavy.
Yeah.
And then they weigh down on your liver. Your
Okay.
liver begins to descend because of the heaviness it's carrying.
Okay, so let's continue here.
All right.
So, heavy metals are present everywhere in the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, our antiperspirants, some of our beverage containers, cookware, clothing, toothpaste, cosmetics, dental fillings, vaccinations, toys and jewelry from China, candy from Mexico, cars, navigation systems, computers, cell phones, everywhere. So, we have no way to detoxify or eliminate these in any sort of significant amounts. Tiny, tiny amounts, yes, but
Yes.
not in significant amounts. And so, if we're exposed to them every day, and we cannot detoxify or eliminate. What happens? They accumulate.
Yes.
So, virtually 100% of adults in industrial countries have some degree of chronic heavy metal toxicity. Now, let's be clear. There's something else called acute heavy metal toxicity, which fortunately is very rare because
Yes.
people with acute heavy metal toxicity either
Very
die
sick.
or they have permanent neurological damage.
Yes.
Okay? With chronic heavy metal toxicity, we don't see those acute and permanent symptoms. Chronic heavy metal toxicity can be reversed. Okay?
Okay.
So why should we want to reverse our heavy metal toxicity? Why
Well,
do we
before
care?
you go to the solution, I wanted to explore people who have dentures, metal dentures that were put in a long time ago, or they have metal fittings in their body. Does that increase their levels of toxicity from those metals?
Well, dentures, no.
Yes.
Dental implants, no.
Okay.
Mercury amalgam fillings, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I have never seen a patient with a mouthful of mercury that didn't have significant chronic mercury toxicity when we did the proper testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very important to all of you who have those mercury fillings. It's really important. First of all, perhaps.
Well, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
There's a spectrum. Over here is very slight chronic heavy metal toxicity. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And then here we cross over the line into acute. Okay?
Yes.
Now, the dental process of drilling out those old fillings releases huge amounts of mercury into your system. And it can push you over that line from chronic to acute mercury toxicity, which is very dangerous and must be avoided at all costs. So, if you need to have those fillings replaced, you must do a heavy metal detox first. then have the fillings removed by a dentist who has specialty training in certain procedures that can minimize the mercury exposure, okay?
Wonderful.
Because you just take a dental drill and drill out a mercury amalgam filling, it vaporizes and just goes straight into your
Bloodstream.
mucous membrane, straight into your bloodstream. Now that filling is considered so toxic once it's out of your mouth that the dentist is required to use special hazardous material handling when he puts that on the countertop, okay?
Wow.
Perfectly safe in your mouth, a hazardous waste on the counter. Come on, folks.
Wonderful.
Anybody with a second grade education can realize that's an insane way of looking at things, okay? These are very toxic, and never let your children have mercury fillings, never let yourself be talked into mercury fillings. They're cheap and they're long lasting, but they're also deadly, so
Wonderful.
we want to avoid it.
Bad. So now let's go into how we detoxify heavy metal.
Well, first of all, yes, but first of all, why should we care about heavy metals? What do they do to us? Well, we could literally have a week-long seminar on this, but in a nutshell, heavy metals speed up the aging process. They speed up the hardening and clogging of the artery process. They play a huge role in heart attacks and strokes.
Yes.
Heavy metals suppress our immune system. They increase cancer risk dramatically. Have we discussed, I don't recall us discussing this particular detail before. A double-blind study from Switzerland concluded that on average, heavy metals increase our cancer risk by blank percent. Fill in the blank. What do you think sounds reasonable?
50%.
50%? Much higher.
80%.
Much higher.
100%.
Much higher.
1,000%.
You're close. 900%. Now, when I read the study,
Heavy metals, guys.
when I read the article, the study, I thought it was a typo. I thought they intended to say 90%, but it wasn't a typo.
900%.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wow.
So why aren't we winning the war on cancer? Well, this is at least part of the answer. It's one piece of that puzzle, because mainstream doctors never pay any attention to heavy metal toxicity. Now, if you go to your mainstream doctor, ask him to test you for heavy metals, the first thing he's going to do is try to talk you out of it. Oh, that's silly. You don't have a problem. We don't need to do a test. If you persist and demand the test, he'll go, okay, and they're going to draw a blood sample on you.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's a worthless test.
Okay.
Heavy metals get deposited deep into our body tissues, okay?
Yes.
Brain, bones, eyes, heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, muscles, etc.
Yes.
Okay.
So how do you test for it then?
So, we need to give you something that will pull heavy metals out of your system, flush them out into the urine. And the best way to do that is with a test called an EDTA challenge, DMSA challenge test. Two different things that you take that are powerfully pulling heavy metals out of your system into your urine. 6 hours later, you collect a urine sample that goes to the lab. They test it for heavy metals.
And that would give us a sense of where you are in that spectrum
Yes.
of toxicity.
Yes.
And then now what do we do when the results come?
Okay, so far and away the most effective way of addressing heavy metal toxicity is with EDTA, which has to be given intravenously. If you take it by mouth, about 95% of it gets destroyed in the digestion process.
Yeah, because I was doing that with that Quicksilver solution. It's a 3-month program of taking EDTA in small amounts over time for detoxification. But again,
well,
you say the
here's the
effectiveness
thing,
of that is
at no point in that do you likely get a therapeutic EDTA level.
No.
So,
yes.
so let's suppose that you've got strep throat.
Yes.
And you go to a mainstream doctor and he prescribes penicillin 500 milligrams 4 times a day for 10 days.
Yes.
Okay? So that's 2,000 milligrams a day for 10 days. That's a total of 20,000 milligrams.
Yes.
And that's a therapeutic dose. But if you said to that doctor, well, I'm not going to take it this way. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take 50 milligrams once a day until I've taken my entire 20,000 milligram dose. It's not going to work because at no point do you get a therapeutic blood level.
Yes.
And so it's the same type of
with
principle with
EDTA.
EDTA.
Yes.
So
and you had the EDTA, but you also had the other one,
DMSA.
DMSA.
Yes.
All right. And those two things, when you take, will bring out and show in your urine the levels of those toxicity.
Yes.
But now you were talking again about the process of actually taking EDTA
Yes,
intravenously.
yeah, it's an IV.
Yes.
It absolutely takes a commitment
Yes.
to do this because you're going to need a series of IVs. In most cases, about 20 will do the trick.
20.
Some people need more, but it's a very small price to
But
pay
it's very, yeah,
for all the benefits you get.
thank you, Dr. Johnson, for talking about investing, right? That's
Yes.
what we say in your
Yes,
health.
yes.
Because a lot of people will wait until they get cancer and then they panic.
Yes.
Rather than spending
Yes.
the money that's required for this 20 intravenous
Yes.
injection, IV therapies.
Yes.
So what does that do? Give us the biochemistry of what actually happens
Well,
with...
several things happen.
Excuse me, before
Yes.
you go into that, you kind of get lost in your conversations and you start, what is EDTA for the people who are?
No, well, they can Google it. That's why we have Google.
Well,
They should Google.
I can answer that
Yes.
question succinctly here. EDTA stands for ethylene diamine tetracetic acid.
Which they won't understand
So
anyway.
I'm sure you're glad you asked, right?
Yes.
That's why we call it EDTA for short.
Yeah, so that you will
It's-
not get confused.
It's a very special amino acid
Acid.
that has the ability, if this is the heavy metal, it has the ability to latch on to this, okay?
So you can extract it.
Theoretically, our kidneys should filter out the heavy metals,
Yeah.
okay? But a naked heavy metal molecule is essentially invisible to the kidneys.
Yes.
You attach this EDTA molecule onto it, and now when it passes through the kidneys go, oh, I see that. That doesn't belong here. We're going to get rid of it.
Okay.
And so it filters out through the kidneys.
All right, so
and
let's
through the
go
urine.
back to the EDTA intravenous
Yes.
therapy.
Yes.
So what happens as the EDTA comes in?
Okay, so two things happen.
And why do we
basically.
need 20? I'm like, wow.
Well, because heavy metals are sneaky. They're diabolical.
They're like liberals. They hide in the fields.
Do you have a political blog?
No.
And if not, why not?
Yeah, exactly. I should go there and
Oh,
express
man.
all this liberal stuff, right? Yeah, you just, the way you were describing toxins, I thought you were talking about liberals. Yes. I just couldn't help myself.
Okay.
They're sneaky.
Yeah, they are deep into the body tissues, and they can only be pulled out gradually over time,
Teased out.
teased out, a little bit at a time. Now, sometimes
Because the body refuses to release all
Yes,
of it because
yes.
the body knows it's dangerous.
Yes.
If it released all of it.
Yes.
So that's why it released only little at a time.
yes,
Okay.
Okay, so and we can't give chelation too fast because that would be potentially harmful to your kidneys. Heavy metals are toxic to every tissue in our body, especially kidneys.
So you just introduced a new term. You were saying we're taking EDTA. So that process of IV is called chelation.
Chelation, yes.
All right.
Yes.
And why do we call it chelation?
Because it comes from the Greek root word chel, which means claw. So
The way
EDTA
those
is like a
amino
claw
acids,
that,
yes.
that hooks onto the
The
heavy
toxins,
metal.
yes.
Yeah, so-
and pull it out.
So chel is Greek for claw, so
All
we call
right.
it chelation there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what has been your experience with all the patients you've taken through this therapy?
Oh, it's quite amazing. So when you get the chelation therapy, a couple of things happen. You get heavy metals pulled out of your tissues, and you also get calcium deposits pulled out of the walls of hardened arteries,
Yes.
and calcium deposits in joints.
The outcomes are amazing. The benefits.
Well, sure. You've got you've got patients who say, "Oh man, I feel much younger. I have more energy." I've got a lot of older men who say, "This chelation therapy is great. It's better than Viagra." Because we're restoring better blood flow to certain
It's
critical
cheaper than
body parts.
by Viagra too.
Well, depends on how much Viagra you're consuming.
Yes. So how often should one do this minimum set of 20?
Okay, so you need to give your kidneys 1 day of rest between chelation treatments.
Okay.
So at a maximum, you would do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
About three.
3 a week.
Because next week I'm starting my chelation.
Now, if you do 2 a week or 1 a week, you're still going to reach your same final destination. It's just going to take longer to get there.
All right.
And a lot of people find that if they just dive in and get started, and they do it 3 times a week, they're much less likely to get distracted by a family emergency.
And so
or
they can
something.
do it in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
They would actually be done in about 4 weeks.
Well, no, that would be 7
7
weeks.
weeks, 7
Yeah.
or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you said even after you finish that, on a daily basis, we're talking here about a toxin pull or metal pull.
Yes.
You need to take something daily,
Yes.
including our Broco Protect.
Yeah, let's see the metal pull here.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, so metal pull is something you can take by mouth to help with heavy metal detoxification. This is not strong enough and doesn't work fast enough to do the initial detox, okay? This would be for chronic maintenance after you're finished with chelation, because after all the heavy metals are gone, you're gonna go back out into the real world, you're gonna be exposed to heavy metals from all those sources I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
and they're gonna start to reaccumulate.
Okay.
So something like this is very good. Eat more cilantro. Cilantro has a mild heavy metal detoxification benefit.
Yeah, so that's the
And if you don't like cilantro, then that's your problem.
that's the liposomal EDTA one that I was taking, part of Quicksilver. I don't want you to comment about that now, but that's something we can look at. So, but there's this other question, Dr. Johnson, which is that what about molds and those other things that also, they're toxins too, right? Molds and the other things that accumulate inside of us.
Sure, mold toxins are rampant in our world.
Is it the same treatment for them, for mold and other things?
Well, yeah, the Broco Protect is very good, but most importantly, you've got to minimize your exposure to mold.
Okay.
Where do we get exposed to mold? Well, any house that's ever had a water leak is likely to be growing mold somewhere in the ceiling or
And
in the
then
walls.
we breathe it through
Okay.
the air, right?
Most coffee is contaminated with
Most
with
coffee,
mold toxins.
exactly. All of you Starbucks people, your coffee is
Peanut butter
peanut butter lovers. Hey, Daniel, peanut butter.
is commonly contaminated with mold toxins.
Really?
Mike,
Peanut butter?
peanut butter because it's molded when the peanuts are dried and ground.
Okay, so can anybody tell me the most carcinogenic toxin known to man?
Perfume.
It's called aflatoxin. Where does aflatoxin come from? It comes from the mold that grows on peanuts.
Ew. So peanut
Is that why I love peanuts so much? My relationship
No.
with peanut has just changed.
I'm sure it's because you're such a racist.
My relationship with peanut, I didn't know peanuts were white.
What?
Yeah, I mean, no, my relationship with peanuts just changed. So,
Well, if you eat peanut butter,
Broco Protect.
take your Broco Protect.
Danielle, you hear that? Every time you eat peanut and you drink, Broco Protects. You see, this is like the solution to alcohol, your mold in coffee, and all the other bullshit that we take,
Yeah.
right?
Most cereals
Have mold.
Most cereals have been stored in silos with some moisture, mold has grown, and
So how dangerous is mold? Talk to us, Dr. Johnson.
Well-
How dangerous, is it as dangerous as the 900% cancer
No.
issues?
No.
How dangerous is mold?
Okay. Well, first of all, some of this is determined by your genetic susceptibility.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a refrigerator ice maker leak in the wall behind the refrigerator. We didn't have any clue for some time, and so by the time we discovered it, we had toxic black mold. One of my family members got pretty sick from it. The other 3 did not.
Yeah.
And so there is an individual genetic susceptibility.
Yeah.
Mold can cause fatigue, it can cause thyroid problems, it can cause adrenal problems. It is toxic to our mitochondria. Mitochondria are the power plants of our cells. So you handcuff your power plants, you're going to be fatigued to some
Yes.
degree.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's a question because we're about to close.
Question is, so is it safe to say that a vegan diet is gonna have a more high toxicity level?
No. Look, there's a lot of confusion about this. Some people, they go in and they go to the health food store and they buy the vegan potato chips, the vegan croissants, the vegan whatever. Well, those things are junk food, whether
It's
they're
vegan
vegan
or
or
not,
not.
yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. Okay, what carbohydrates are the single biggest problem dietarily speaking for the average American? There are good carbs and there are bad carbs, okay?
So
Good
substituting
carb,
like white flour for coconut flour is not, is.
if it has fiber in it,
Yes.
you can take any healthy food and you can process it and take the fiber out and turn it into junk food.
Exactly.
So just because it has a healthy sounding ingredient like coconut,
Doesn't mean
that doesn't tell the whole story. Look at the nutrition label.
Yeah.
See how many grams of carbs are present per serving. So let's say you've got a loaf of bread and the nutrition label says there's 30 grams of carbs per serving.
Yeah.
Well, at a minimum, we want 20% of those carbs in the form of fiber.
Yeah.
So 20% of 30 is 6. So 30 grams of carbs, we
How
need to
much?
have 6 or more grams of fiber. Very few breads would meet that standard.
Mostly
Most
2 or
breads are going to
3.
have or 1 or even 0 in some
fiber,
cases.
yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
So, but also the issue with vegetarian is that even the vegetables that they eat, if it's grown in the wrong place, toxicity is open to everything, if it's organic food, right?
Well-
because the soil itself
Yeah.
could be toxic.
soil around the world contains some arsenic.
Yes.
Now, some areas it's much higher, some areas it's much lower. But if your organic carrots are grown in high arsenic soil,
Yeah.
your carrots are going to have a lot of arsenic. Doesn't mean you should never eat carrots again, but it does mean pay attention to the heavy metal toxicity.
That's
issue.
why we're here, Dr. Johnson, with
Yeah.
supplements to help
Yeah.
people. And I was going to close by talking about hydrogen,
Yes.
right? And we'll finish with oxygen.
Okay.
So I was introduced to hydrogen some time ago, and I'm a chemist. I thought I should understand it, but I didn't really understand how powerful hydrogen is to our health. Talk to us about it.
Well, it's a very powerful antioxidant. It is the most abundant element in the universe.
Yes.
And it's also one of the most unstable elements in the following sense. You can fill a tank with oxygen and you can come back a month or two later, it'll still be full of oxygen. You fill a tank full of hydrogen, come back a month or two later, all of the hydrogen, the molecules are so tiny that they've leaked out through the pores of the metal tank.
They escape.
And so you have little or no hydrogen left, okay?
So the hydrogen water we have, and this one that you
Yes.
put as a fizzle in the water, the minute you put it in and it fizzles, you should drink it
Exactly,
immediately.
because otherwise the hydrogen will just
Will
dissipate
escape,
into
yeah.
the
And
atmosphere.
so the hydrogen water machine we have, once you make the water, you should drink
Yes.
it immediately.
Yes.
And it goes in, and the oxygen now escapes into your pores and cleans up our
The
mitochondria.
hydrogen does.
Yeah, the
Yes,
hydrogen.
yes, yes.
Almost infiltrating like I wasn't gonna say
Like a Marxist?
like a liberal.
I
yeah.
knew it.
All right, talk to us about oxygen, because you have a hyperbaric oxygen
Yes.
chamber in your clinic in the desert.
Okay, so oxygen, of course, is necessary for human life as we know it.
Yes.
And if you give a patient more oxygen, you breathe 100% oxygen, and you put that person in a chamber and pressurize the chamber, you are forcing much more oxygen into the cells, and that can be very
Not just through
therapeutic.
breathing, but through even the skin and other areas of the body, right?
Well, a little bit through the skin, but it's
But
mostly
mostly-
what you're breathing. But
Yes.
but since the whole chamber is pressurized,
Yes.
that forces the oxygen that
And
you
we-
breathe
and-
more powerfully into the cells.
And we were saying that this research just came out of Israel, that
Yes.
if you do that twice a week, you're gonna perhaps live up to 120, 130.
That's one of the things. There are other factors involved, but,
Yeah,
but
but
yes.
for most of my friends I spoke to about living to 120, the first question was that, well, they're going to be broke. And I said, that's why you die early if you're poor.
Well, but see, they're not going to be broke if they will pursue all of the anti-aging technologies that we have,
And they'll stay
at
productive.
80, 90, 100, they might feel like a healthy 40 or 50 or 60-year-old, and they can be productive, they can
My
continue
worry
to
is that
work.
they might still continue producing babies.
And I suppose if they're liberal, we're gonna have to give them birth control.
Exactly, exactly. Well, thank you
See,
for
I'm-
joining us.
I'm starting to understand you now.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Conversations with Dr. Johnson today. Thank you for your questions. Like us, love us, and continue to follow us. And tomorrow, we will be concluding the part for this week, and we'll have some other fun things to talk about. Thank you, Dr.
All right,
Johnson.
my pleasure. My
All right.
pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.